Gore Vidal, the late Gore Vidal, said you should never give a book a bad review, which means that you shouldn't review a book you don't like. Because, as he says, it does no one any good. The idea that you give a book a bad review and someone doesn't pick it up and read it means that you have prevented them from having their opinion, and of course people disagree. So a bad review essentially just stops sales. Now, obviously, if someone picks up a book and they don't like it, that is entirely fair. And it's obviously, Booktube is very much about discussing books. So, what do we do if we don't think something is very good, but on the other hand, hundreds of thousands of people may like it, especially those booktubers with real influence, and there are many of them. Not me, of course, but so it's interesting, isn't it? What do we do with something we don't like? Because I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I read a novel that was very well reviewed. And I know people who like it enormously, and I thought it was terrible. I thought it was poorly written, very lazily plotted. I thought it didn't sort of add to the kind of writing or the kind of story that it was working with. And this is but it I mean, obviously, I'm giving it a bad review now, but I'm not saying what it is. I mean, and also, one can't double guess what people are going to think. I mean, there are people I admire and respect and love deeply who hate a couple of books that I deeply love. To my mind, they don't get them. To their mind, I'm seeing something that isn't there. I mean, I know this is straightforward, subjective, objective nonsense, but I should make it very clear. I do believe in objective good, and objective greatness in art and in books. And obviously, when I think something is objectively great and someone doesn't, I feel they're wrong, and they feel I'm wrong, and then we get into this whole subjective objective thing again. But one would have to do a very detailed analysis of certain books to prove why they are great. And one can argue forever. And I think over the dinner table or over coffee, that's fine. But I think when spreading the word about a book, we want people to read. Now, of course, you can bang on about how great a book is, and someone reads it and they don't like it. Do they blame you for buying the book? Probably not. I don't think that's how books operate. They will just disagree with you. I mean, the key thing for me is I think 3 or 4 of the books I love most dearly, very few people even finish. And I still recommend them. I probably already have here. It's not because they're difficult books. It's probably because they are just talking to me in a particular way, and aren't really for a broader audience, and therefore one's hit rate when recommending them is very low. But I think, and I mean, my nature is to criticize, and criticize with some enthusiasm and passion. But I'm not sure it is that useful, and so I'm not going to do it here on Booktube. I'm going to talk about things I love, and trying to avoid saying, because it's as I said, as Gore Vidal says, it does no one any good. Stopping anyone reading anything does no one any good, and I think that's good advice from someone, quite frankly, who said a lot of fairly mean-spirited things, not about books, about his friends. So that's So that's my view on giving bad reviews. I think we should think carefully when we think about it. Um, maybe star systems are quite good in the sense you give something 1 star, but you don't say why. I don't know. I should say, I've published 2 novels um, in the mid noughties, 2004 and 2006. One of them got almost uniformly good reviews in the newspapers and on Amazon and Goodreads. And my second novel, which I think is superior and got also good but slightly more middling reviews in the newspaper, was killed on Amazon by readers. But I think it was a more difficult book, and I think Penguin published it badly. They sold it into the crime audience, and it's not a crime novel. And therefore, I think giving it bad reviews essentially stops it finding people who are going to enjoy it, and especially as it's being given bad reviews often by people who were wrongly sold the book. So that's obviously an issue for publishers. So yeah, that's my thought on that matter. Of course, I might read something that I hate so deeply and feel so strongly about that I feel I must stop people reading it. But actually, that's not going to happen, because if I really hate something that much, I'm not going to finish it. And I also don't think you should give a review of something you don't finish. There was one book, and I'm going to say, yes, I think it was called The London Pigeon Wars by Patrick Neate, which I really struggled with for quite a long time, and I have said this to him. But something happens towards the end of the book which contextualizes everything, and one realizes that he was doing something quite subtle. And I would still say, to a certain degree, it was a failure on his part to manage the reader to a point where they're aware, whether they know it or not, of where he's going or what he's doing, rather than make it like a twist. But on the other hand, I stuck with it and felt deeply, deeply moved at the end of the book, and felt that in a sense, maybe I wasn't being generous enough at the beginning. So I think it's very important to finish books. But then when you get as old and grey as me, one doesn't have enough time to finish books you really hate. So I have found over the last couple of years I've ditched books. But yeah, I really didn't do it for the first 35 years of my reading life. Up until I was at 45, I read every book. I never walked out of a film. I did fall asleep occasionally, but yeah. So yeah, that's it really. Not sure whether it's helpful at all, but yeah, I look forward to any comments if there are any.